What's up, everyone, and welcome to Jason Old Art Behind the Art. Today we're looking at a painting that I titled A Hippie's Dream, and I actually did it for my mom for Mother's Day. And so I don't have the original with me because it's hanging on her wall. And so that you all can follow along while I talk about the thoughts and inspiration that went behind the painting, I'm going to put it right here for you guys. And that way you can check it out while I talk about it. But it originally was, my mom originally asked me if I would paint just a peace symbol for her. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, I can do that. But it just seemed a little boring. And so, of course, I wanted the peace symbol itself to be prominent in the painting. But I don't know, I didn't want it to just be that. I thought it would be, like I said, a bit boring. And so what I wanted to do was use the peace symbol as sort of my point of departure in terms of the composition itself. And of course, once I got a bit more of a vision for the painting, I realized I wanted to pack it full of sort of hippie symbols and things that were really indicative of my mom. And of course, it's sort of one and the same, that they're also then indicative of the hippie era, right? And so that was where the title comes from, A Hippie's Dream. So, I want to fill it full of all the, sort of almost cliche hippie symbols. And, but like I said, make it, tailor it specifically to the things that were meaningful for my mom. And for starters, I when I was thinking of bands, I was like, okay, I want to put some bands in there. And of course, first one that comes to mind is Janis Joplin. And then the next one, which is another favorite of my mom's, were the Beatles, right? And so I was like, all right, I'm not going to paint them. So I found two pictures, and I cut them out, and then I put, as you can see, Janis Joplin here in the near corner, and then the Fab Four, the Beatles, in the far corner. And so I guess this painting's technically a mixed media because I didn't paint those. I actually essentially pasted them on by using the paint and those cutouts. And so come to find out afterwards, the picture of Janis Joplin sitting on that Porsche is one of my mom's favorite pictures of her. So I didn't even know that. And so that was kind of cool to find out. But in terms of, the other symbols and, things that are inside this composition, of course, like I said, we've got the peace symbol itself. And of course, I already said that I wanted it to be a prominent piece because that was originally what my mom asked for. But at the same time, I wanted to make use of that space inside the peace symbol itself. And so that's where the idea of the bus, I want to make it sort of like a window, like you're looking into the peace symbol and you're, sort of looking back in time in a sense, right? And so that's where the bus comes from. And I didn't want it to just be a picture or a painting of the bus, but I wanted it to be a bit of a scene, right? And so that's where the rolling hills and, this real peaceful scene inside the peace symbol comes from, right? And so playing off of the idea of peace, of course, and really what's at the heart of this whole painting, and I think is quite indicative of the hippie era, is peace and love. And so that's why you find a lot of hearts and, of course, the peace symbols. Right, and then, of course, you have, you can't do a painting about the hippie era and not have, as you can see there, the bubbly love, right? And so I put that above the Beatles, and of course, tying that into, some of their music, like All You Need Is Love, for example, and just, tying that in right there with the Beatles, and moving back to the top, back over to the bus. In that top corner there, I was trying to figure out what to put there, and I was like, the idea of that sun came to me, and I was like, oh, that's perfect, because it you just kind of squeeze it in that little corner there, and honestly, it's probably one of my favorite parts of the painting. Like, I think that sun turned out really well, and it's kind of gazing over the whole painting, right? And that's what I like about it as well. And then on the other side, I wanted to balance out, the weight, if you will, of the sun and the bus. And that's why I put that big sunflower, but also sort of like a sun as well, but a sunflower of sorts, like an abstract version of that. And then emanating from it, as you can see, are hearts, again, tying it into that peace and love vibe that I wanted to create. And so, and of course, I've sprinkled flowers throughout the whole painting, and including, kind of wrapping some flowers in and around Janis Joplin's, what I put there with Joplin. And so, again, very much indicative of that era. And, I was, you got to have some hippie flowers. But, so I was getting to a point where I felt like it was finished, and I was like, there's one more thing, or there's something missing. And that's when I realized I had left out, the peace fingers. And I was like, oh, well, that, of course, like, how can I have this painting without having the peace fingers as well? And so I thought it would be fun to put it right there with the peace symbol itself, sort of keeping that peace symbol, both the peace fingers and the peace symbol, somewhat front and center of the painting. And then, after I did that, I was like, okay, I want to tie in really nice and tight the idea of peace and love. And so we have the peace fingers, as you can see, and then there's a heart right on top of it. And so, that, I think that at that point I was like, this is done, this is it. And so I was pretty stoked on it, and I was really happy I could do something like this for my mom for Mother's Day that was so significant and meaningful. And but again, the painting itself is titled A Hippie's Dream, and if you want to get a print, or you want an accessory or merchandise that has the artwork on it, you can check it out at jasonoldart.com. And like I said, this is A Hippie's Dream. And thanks for watching Behind the Art. And as always, stay stoked.